All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another Career Readiness Initiative employer session. Today we have William H. Bowen School of Law, which is part of the UA Little Rock system. And then if you want to introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Aurore Abu. I am the Dean of Admissions and Enrollment Management here at Bowen School of Law.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to have you and can't wait to hear more about the school.
Sure. So we are located, as the name suggests, in Little Rock, Arkansas. We're located downtown, the downtown part of Little Rock, and it is a law school. So we offer the opportunity for students to obtain a Juris Doctor or the JD, which is probably what people are more familiar with. We do offer a full-time program as well as a part-time program. The full-time program takes typically about 3 years to complete, whereas the part-time program takes about 4 to 5 years for students to complete. Some of our students are able to expedite that process by either going to class, taking courses over the summer, or taking intersession courses over the fall and spring breaks, things like that. So some students are able to finish in 2.5 years in the full-time program, or maybe even 3.5 years with the part-time program. We do have about 20 course focuses that our students can choose to focus their studies in. Those are not majors, but really it's just an opportunity for our students to focus their studies in an area of law that is most interesting to them. We offer a lot of experiential learning opportunities through our clinics. We do have 7 clinics now. Our latest one is our Veteran Service Clinic, which we actually just got up and running this spring, and we're very, very happy about that. And so with the clinics, they are housed here in the law school, and they are geared towards assisting real life clients from our community who are facing some sort of legal issue, whether it be tax, whether it's a family law situation, whether they're in need of mediation services, as I mentioned, or veteran services, as I just mentioned, things along those lines, or consumer protection. They can come to the law school. Currently, the law school is closed to the public, but we are still assisting our clients through the phone, over the internet, things like that. If there is a need for them to come to the law school to handle some of their business, we are able to help them through our curbside services. So, as I mentioned, experiential learning through the clinic. That's one way that our students are able to get real life experience, hands-on training, things like that. Also, coming out of the clinic are the externship opportunities, which that's an opportunity for the students to obtain credits, working for either a state agency, a federal agency, a state court, a federal court, things along those lines, things involving public service and on like that. So really experiential learning is something that is really important to us here at Bowen. We believe it's a great way for students to get experience in what they're wanting to do, and also to network and to build their resume. So it's something that we really do encourage, and it actually is a part of the graduation requirement. We also have clerkships that come out of our career services office. And the clerkships are an opportunity for our students to work, but to get monetary compensation rather than credit compensation. And so with that, of course, it's just another opportunity, another way for students to get experience working with local law firms. And it's a great way, another great way, I should say, to network and to build the resume, and of course, to gain that experience. And so it's our hope that between the course focuses and the experiential learning, students are coming out of here with a robust resume, able to demonstrate to employers that not only have they studied in particular areas of law that they find interesting, but they've also worked in those areas of law that they find interesting. Of course, we also have things for people who may not be entirely sure that they want to go to trial. Of course, we have trial teams, moot court teams, things like that. But we also do have our publications, our law reviews, and things like that that students can get involved in if they're more focused in legal research, writing, transactional work, things like that. So I like to believe that here at Bowen, we have something for just about every student who, whether or not they want to actually be in the courtroom, whether or not they want to practice law, things like that. And I should include, and I totally did not introduce myself. I just went right into Bowen. I should include that I myself am a 2016 graduate of Bowen. And so for me, my journey, and I guess, that's sort of the crux of why we're here today. My journey, I knew that I did not want to practice law. There was like a 99.5% chance I just was not going to. I knew that that wasn't for me, but I really knew that there was a value that's added to one's life if they are able to obtain a JD. And so for me, I guess how that journey began, in fifth grade, I said I wanted to go to law school. I'm not even really sure why. I don't know that Law and Order existed back then in 1990, whatever. But I just wanted to go to law school. I did. I didn't have any lawyer friends. I don't know where the thought came from, but I wanted to go to law school. Before then, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a poet. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be a teacher, and I also wanted to be a journalist. I think. Probably because I really enjoy watching Superman. That's like my fetish. I love Superman. And so I think because of that, journalism and I don't know, writing, it just was this big old ball of I want to do all these different things. And so, I had law school in mind. That was sort of the end goal, but I wasn't really sure what kind of law I wanted to practice. If I wanted to practice, I didn't really know the ins and outs of what going to law school entailed and what you could do with that. So, on and on I went. I should also add that I'm not from Arkansas. I'm actually from New Jersey. So I graduated from Science High School in Newark, New Jersey. And after graduating from high school, I worked for Newark Public Schools, which is the Board of Education I graduated out of. And I worked in human resources. I also didn't know what human resources was, but I really enjoyed what I did. And so for the couple of months after high school, I worked, and then I went to Temple University, where I started off as a pre-pharmacy major. My father laughed at that thought. We'll say that. He's a chemist, and he knows that I'm not a science person, but my mom had this really big, grand idea in her mind that I would be a lawyer and a pharmacist, and all will be well in life for her. That didn't work out. Which is totally fine. After my spring semester, I came out of, it was either my chemistry final or my biology final, and I just knew that I did not do well. I, had to sit down with my mom and said, this is not going to work. I know this is your dream and your hope, but this is just not going to work for me. So I reverted to my plan from third grade, and I majored in journalism, and then I double majored in psychology. That was my mom's idea, but that one actually did work out. So I double majored in journalism and psychology, and I enjoyed journalism, and I found that I actually was enjoying psychology. But most of all, I enjoyed a part of psychology called industrial organization psychology. And for those of you who are familiar with IO psychology, it's really just studying the workplace, studying how to motivate employees, studying how to make the workplace better. And for me, a light bulb sort of went off. It kind of clicked in my head what it was I had been doing in HR. So of course, IO is not an exact replica of HR, but they certainly work hand in hand. And so as I was going to Temple, which is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, not too far from Newark, it's about 2.5 hours away, I was also working in HR with NPS on my winter breaks, summer breaks, things like spring breaks too. And so I was building up my resume, building up my interest in HR. And I decided that before going to law school, I wanted to get my master's because I knew after law school, I am done with school. I am not going back to school. That's just going to be it. And that's been the case. I haven't gone back to school. And so I got my master's from LaSalle University, which is just 3 stops away or so, 5 train stops away from Temple. And I really enjoyed IO psychology. I completed an externship with a local, actually it's not local, a nearby mental health institution, Eagleville Hospital, about an hour and a half away or so from Philadelphia. And although it was a mental health institution, I worked in HR. So I was able to sort of see the ins and outs of that and see how all of that worked, everything, employment relations, labor relations, benefits, all that stuff. So along with the training I had from the classroom, the training I had from my externship, And the experience that I had working with human resources back in Newark, I knew that I just wanted to go deeper into this. And I knew that I wanted to somehow combine law with that. While working for Newark Public Schools, I had an opportunity to work with the director of labor relations. She was an attorney. And so getting to work with her, getting to see what it is that she did every day was kind of helpful. And there was another employee in HR who also had a legal background, and getting to see what he did for HR was very inspirational, and helped me see how I can merge the worlds together, even though I couldn't quite see it just yet. And so after graduating from LaSalle with my master's, I worked for a bit, for about a year and a half, in Parsippany, New Jersey, for an organization called Community Hope. And their focus is mainly on helping people who have been in mental health institutions transition back into living on their own, basically. And so I worked in human resources as a staff recruiter, and just, again, getting to see the ins and outs of how what I was doing was affecting the lives of those, and the mission of the organization, things like that. So after a while, my friends had an intervention and decided to sit me down, and they said, it's time for you to apply to law school. I was like, no, I don't want to. It's so hard. But yeah, they were like, no, you can do this. It's time. So I started the research. I looked into different law schools outside of the New Jersey, New York metro areas, particularly because I already had a master's degree and I didn't want to further inundate myself with another hefty financial responsibility. Also, I knew that if I stayed close to my friends, I would probably never study. So I did myself a favor and I looked at law schools outside of my local bubble, my comfort zone. And that's how I came upon my school, University of Arkansas, Little Rock, Bowen School of Law. Their tuition was and still is very affordable. When I looked at their tuition, I was just blown away. Currently, our tuition is $13,300 and some change, and that's for in-state students. However, we do offer out-of-state students a non-resident scholarship. That's good for the duration of their 1L year and can be renewed for their 2L and 3L years. So that's the tuition now. I don't even remember what the tuition was in 2013 when I started, but it just was a great deal that I felt like I could not, beat. So I applied and I was admitted, and they offered me two scholarships, a merit scholarship as well as a non-resident scholarship. And so I thought that, this is a really, really great opportunity for me to pursue my goals at a very inexpensive price. And so I moved from New Jersey and I came to Little Rock and I started the journey. So while I was here, I, of course, went through my 1L year. And after my 1L year, I performed a lot better than I expected. I will say that. I was not expecting to do as well as I did. And so I think that was a good indication for me that I was on the right track. And so after your first semester as a 1L, you have an opportunity in the spring of your 1L year to interview with local law firms. And that's what we call OCIs, on-campus interviews here. And so with the OCIs, I interviewed with, I think, a few local law firms that specialize in employment law, because that was the route that I wanted to go, or at least I thought I did. And I got an opportunity to clerk with a local law firm here, a major law firm here that specializes in employment law. And after that opportunity, I was very, very appreciative of it, but I realized that, yes, I don't think that I want to work in a law firm. And so I spread out my time while I was in law school doing other things. I worked for my law school in admissions. I worked for my law school in career services. I worked for my law school in alumni relations. I also completed an externship with Arkansas School Boards Association, as well as CHI, Community Health Initiatives, which is a hospital. And so pretty much just did a number of different things to sort of just figure out what it is I wanted to do, what worked for me, what didn't. And working for my law school is pretty much what put me on my path to where I am today. After graduating here, I worked for the University of Tulsa College of Law as an admissions counselor. I was then promoted to an assistant director of admissions and diversity initiatives. And then I got this job. And so that's sort of where I am and how I got to where I am. I really hope that wasn't boring. I'm sorry if it was. But certainly that's my path. And I say all that to say that becoming a lawyer or becoming an attorney, which is one who practices law, doesn't have to be a straight line. And I think a lot of times people who are interested in law are encumbered with this idea that it has to be a straight path. You have to start off as an English major or as a history major or as a political science major, and you just have to continue that way. And that's not the case at all. Or you have to, go to law school straight out of college. That's also not the case at all. There are a number of people that I graduated with who this was their second or their third career. I graduated with someone who was actually a doctor of psychology, and he was much older. Actually, he may have been older than all of us in our class, but he was brilliant. He was really, really smart. So it's not always the case that you have to go to law school immediately after undergrad. It's certainly not the case that you have to have a specific major to go to law school either. We very much value diversity here at Bowen, and in the legal profession, diversity is important, not just, diversity of a person, where they're coming from, their background, or, their ethnicity, but certainly diversity of ideas. And so coming in with an engineering background or a medical background even, or a science background, a technological background, those are all very advantageous to you as a person because you're coming in and you're able to have certain discussions that other people may not be able to have. So you having that background helps to answer particular questions that someone else may have about, just why a particular fidget thing works the way it does or whatever. And you'd be surprised because sometimes in a case, that particular question will be what hinges, which way the case will fall. So it really is important to realize that you don't have to have the traditional, arts and sciences or arts and humanities, I should say, background to be considered for law school. The law touches on everything that you can see and even things that you cannot see, which is why it's important for us to bring in people who have varying backgrounds, who can speak to, just the fundamental understanding of certain things that someone with a journalism degree will not be able to understand. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now. And, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I don't think your story was boring at all. That's exactly what Career Services is hoping that students will take away, is that you can have, it's more likely that people are going to have more than one career in their lifetime. Especially now, people are jumping jobs more often and doing different things. It's not like, a few generations ago where you did one thing your entire life and then you're retired after 40 years. Like, we get to choose. I totally agree that past experience can help you in your new experiences. I taught high school before becoming a career counselor. My time with my students helps me with my time with my students here now. I love that you were in HR before going to law, so you've got a lot of valuable experience working with people as well. Is there like one piece of advice that you'd want students to know, just overarching?
I think you really said it all. The piece of advice I would give them is just know that you don't have to stick with one career, even or one job, maybe I should say, a little bit of both, really. Even within the legal career, people will graduate from law school, take the bar, pass the bar, practice law for X number of years, and then they may decide, what, I don't want to do this anymore. They may decide I want to go teach now. And that's the case with a lot of our professors in the building. They practice law for a couple of years. Some of them actually still practice law. But, then they decided, I think I want to focus my attention on teaching. And even after that, they may decide, what, I no longer want to teach. I want to now just be an administrator. And so, it varies, it shifts. Someone may start practicing law and then decide, I just now want to work for a law school, or I want to work for an undergraduate school, and then work their way up that way in administration. There are presidents of universities and organizations and school boards that are attorneys, that are lawyers, that have a JD, or even hospitals. There are people who practice law for a while and then shift gears and say, you know what, I want to go into public policy. I want to go into politics. I want to focus my attention on that. But the experience that you had, just as we touched on, the experiences that they had in those previous opportunities prepare them for what they may come up against in their current role. So a lot of times it's not a matter of, oh, it doesn't look exactly like what I want to do. You kind of have to look at, and sort of, hindsight is 2020. You kind of have to look at, how is this going to prepare me for the next thing that I want to do? How is this going to set me up for where I want to be eventually in life? As you mentioned with HR, there are a lot of similarities between HR and what I do now in admissions. As you mentioned, I'm currently dealing with people. I still deal with people. I dealt with people then. People have to submit applications to get a job or to be considered for admissions. Sometimes some law schools may even interview people, and so my interviewing skills, with my counseling degree, but also working in HR, now comes into play with the types of interviews I may have for a law student. Bowen doesn't interview people, but the previous school where I worked at, they did at some point. And so it kind of folds into the next thing that you're doing. So don't discount humble beginnings is really what I'm going to say. And don't discount the things that you're doing now, because those are going to be the building blocks to get you to where it is you want to be, or to help you be better at what you're going to do in your next job or in your next opportunity.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really are trying to show them it's okay to change. I was also going to ask you just a little bit more about Bowen. You talked about clerkships. I think, is that similar to a graduate assistantship?
No. So from my understanding of a graduate assistantship, maybe I don't really have an understanding of it. I think a graduate assistantship is like you're working with a professor. Is that sort of it?
Our assistantships at Tech are, we get to work in a department on campus. And as being a student worker, we get our tuition paid for. We still have to pay fees.
Gotcha.
Tuition is paid for, and then we're also getting paid hourly or a stipend.
That's pretty awesome. That is not a clerkship, but I do want to just throw in that Bowen does have some opportunities for our students to work at the law school. So my office, the library, or maybe even working as a research assistant for a professor. So those opportunities will not cover tuition, but it's more like a work study opportunity where you are paid hourly. You will need to work, or I should say, you won't be able to work over 20 hours a week. But of course, that's just because we want you to excel in being a student. Those opportunities are available, but a clerkship, that's different. So what I mean by it comes out of career services, our career services office will assist students with obtaining a clerkship. So they will look over their resume. They will help them with getting their resume and their cover letters to be better. They will put out information about the clerkship and job opportunities that are out there with local law firms. But clerkships are really just an opportunity for students to work with local law firms and get experience. And typically those opportunities are paid, but they're not going to pay for tuition and fees and things like that. It's usually going to be hourly, of course. I will say those opportunities are great. And I've actually heard of some of my colleagues actually turning down loans because the compensation that they're getting from the clerkships are able to help them, overcome whatever kind of financial difficulties they may have had. So I've definitely heard that. On top of the scholarships that we offer, not just the merit scholarships, but the private scholarships as well, a number of people in the class before me, in my class, things like that, they've been able to just say, I don't need these loans because I'm working for, X law firm, and they're paying me handsomely, even as a student, and it's able to cover whatever financial things it is that I need to take care of. So,
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I know funding is a big concern,
oh yeah.
especially students fresh out of college that just go straight to their master's or doctorate. You don't have any money.
Right,
You're
right,
still a
right.
student.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we know that. And that's something that, of course, is prevalent in our minds. We understand that people are coming to law school from different backgrounds. Even with our part-timers, they're still working. Even though they're still working, it doesn't mean that it's easier for them to pay for school. They may have families and other responsibilities that they need to take care of. And so, of course, they're offered scholarships as well. And we very much encourage our students to apply for our private scholarships every semester. They have that opportunity starting with their 1L year, the fall of their 1L year. And they're not impeded from applying for private scholarships or getting private scholarships because they already got a merit scholarship or because they have been awarded a private scholarship in a previous semester. So we're always looking to help out our students financially however we can with additional scholarships.
It sounds like there's a lot of great opportunities, and especially the learning opportunities, like those different clinics you talked about, things like that. So that's exciting. I was gonna ask if your classes are online, like could students do it fully online, or do they need to be on campus?
That's a good question. So, with the way things are now because of the pandemic, our students do have the option to take classes online. And I should probably add a caveat to that. So, some of the classes are going to be completely online, depending on the comfort level of the professor. Some professors have just, the classes online and that's it. Some professors, they are still teaching in person. And so, if the student wants to come into the class, have the class in person, they certainly can. But if the student feels, for health and safety concerns that they would prefer to take the class online, they can certainly do that. We do have a form in place for our students to complete just to notify us and let us know what their decision is, just because we do need to be accountable and know, who is where and what's happening, what's going on in that regard. But certainly it's really flexible right now and they can take classes online. We're not sure this is something that will continue after the pandemic is, overcome. That's what we're hoping for. But in a normal world, we do allow our students to take up to 1/3 of their classes online, whether that be in the part-time program or the full-time program. The part-time program, however, is not completely online. That is an in-person program. Of course, as I just mentioned, the 1/3 option. But that's something that we're hoping maybe in the future we may be able to see what we can do there. But right now, it really is just the flexibility of if you want to take it online, you can, but it's not a fully online program.
So if they were living out of state, they may need to like relocate to closer, at least, to attending class. Yeah, I feel like in class would be way better and more helpful anyway.
Yeah, I didn't take classes online, so I really don't know. I should say law classes. I've taken my graduate classes online, so I'm not really sure, but I can imagine it being in person for something as stringent and something as, so laser focused as law would be beneficial. My sister's in med school now. This is her first year, and she's online, and she complains about all the opportunities that she's missing in person. So I can definitely understand how, sort of the more focused the concentration or the studies become, whether it be, pharmacy, med school, law school, physical health, physical therapy, things like that. I can imagine that having it in person, face to face, probably beats being online. So
yeah, definitely.
we're working with what we have, and we're providing the best that we can with the situation that we're in.
Which is all we all can do.
Right. Yeah. Health and safety is important. It really is.
Yeah. Are you guys currently doing tours?
We are not. So we do have a virtual tour set up on our webpage. And so we are very much encouraging everyone to give that a look over. We are looking at perhaps maybe later in the spring or maybe even later in the summer if things get better, getting that set up. But currently our school is closed to the public. And so we don't really want to encourage tours at the moment being as, the school in general is wanting to maintain a safe environment for the students. And so right now it's really just the staff, the faculty, and the students who are on campus. We do offer services though, curbside services. Our library does that because we are the legal library for Pulaski County. So any kind of needs that the public has, the library is sure to meet those needs with our curbside services. The admissions office certainly is hosting office hours over Zoom. And so if, students, prospects have questions and things like that, we are definitely available over the phone. We're available via email, and we are available via Zoom.
Awesome. Then if you don't care to share the link to your admissions page and that tour, I can add it to the description of this video and YouTube. So that way students watching later can click and see and get some more information.
Great. And I can add that in the chat if you want. I'm not sure if that's something that will pop up in the video. Let's see. So that's the admissions page there.
All right.
And let me get the link for the virtual tour. All right.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and I will definitely include those in the description.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And actually, let me also include our email address for anyone who wants to get in touch with us via email. There it is there.
Perfect. I'll copy that as well. All right. Yay. Is there anything else that you want to share about your school? I feel like that's all the questions I can think of. Great info.
Let me think. I'm also including our phone number.
Okay.
So that's on there. Let me think. I mentioned, our tuition is affordable, very, very much affordable. I think for a legal education, I've talked about experiential learning. Our core values, you can probably see there that way. Access to justice, public service, and professionalism. That's pretty much what we're about here. And so that will guide pretty much everything that we're doing, the classes that we offer, the programming that we offer, things like that. We really are wanting to provide access to justice for our Kansans, but also access to justice means providing a way for people who want to become a part of the justice pipeline and providing justice and justice services, I should say, for others. And so that is why our application is free. There is no application fee. I should probably mention that. We do offer a lot of pre-law services for prospects who are interested in learning not just about Bowen, but even just about the law school application process. We host monthly webinars for prospects to engage with us, and we talk about different parts of the application process. So we may talk about letters of recommendation and the resume, things like that. We also do offer our pre-law resource guides to anyone who requests it. It's totally free. And the guides, again, will cover different aspects of the application. But of course, that's in written form for those who may not be able to attend our webinars. But the guides are totally free and they cover, as I mentioned, different aspects. So one guide will focus on the resume, and there will be a piece focusing, actually there is a guide for veterans. And so veterans who are transitioning into civilian work and things like that, and who may have questions about how do I, transition my military background for something that civilians can understand and things like that. And so the different guides there are helpful for people who may have questions about, how do I go about beginning this whole process to being admitted to law school? What else can I tell you about Bowen? We are a small school. This is the background behind me, that is our building. And so we are pretty small. We like it that way so that we're able to get to know our students. Our students are able to get to know each other, and they're able to cultivate their networking professional community that way as well. I think that's pretty much the key high-level items that I think your students need to know about us. But of course, if they have any specific questions, we are definitely here to help them along the way and to address those questions for them. And they can reach out to us via phone, or they can email us.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely share all that information and the links in the description. So when they watch this later, they can reach out to you guys. I think it was really beneficial. If I ever wanted to go to law school, it's a great place.
Sure. And if your students have questions, maybe not just about law, I realize this is, the eTech side of things, but if they want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, maybe they have a question about, I know your career services office is doing a great job, which is, answering their questions as well, but they can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. And I'd be happy to answer their questions there.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for being here and speaking with us and just sharing your story and being encouraging, because again, like, the school is awesome and continuing their education, but even if they don't decide to go to any further in school, you shared some great information just about life in general.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us for the Career Readiness Initiative.
Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great day. Take care.
You too.